Let me shift now to this morning and our featured speaker. We are really honored to have Elliot online with us today. Elliot has a corporate meeting coming up pretty soon, so we want to jump right in. Elliot has always impressed me as one who inspirationally can say the right words at the right time. And I'm convinced that if Elliot wasn't the president of PSI, he would be a minister. But maybe in his own way, he's a minister every day, whether it's at PSI or talking to people on a day-to-day basis. So, Elliot, we are honored that you're with us this morning. Thank you so much, sir. And please, the floor is yours.
Well, Rod, thank you so much for having me. One, I'm honored, and two, I'm very appreciative. This morning, and this will be very brief, but this morning I just want to cover a few topics. I want to talk to you about some things that I know you are going through and we're all experiencing, and I want to talk a little bit about how we get through this. And I'll start off by sharing some things that were shared to me by some of my elders. And one of those things was from my grandfather, who told me when I was about 14 years old and I was having a problem. And I opened up to him, and as I finished just pouring my heart out to my grandpa about the woes of my life at 14 years old, he shared something with me. And he said, son, he said, through this life, you're only going to deal with two things, two major scenarios. Something is going to fall into one bucket or the other. To which I told him, I said, that's impossible. There's so many scenarios that we go through and so many things that are happening to us. What do you mean things can only fall into one or two buckets? And he said, well, let me explain. He said, bucket number one, he said, you're going to find that everything in life you're going to deal with is either in your control, and that's one of the buckets. Something is in your control. And he said, the other bucket is, or it's not. And he said, here's how you deal with those two things that only fall in two buckets. He said, those things that you find are within your control, you do something about it. And those things that you find are not, you pray. And that has helped me throughout my entire life. And every scenario, every situation that I face, I found that to be true. Everything that I'm dealing with falls into one bucket or the other. And I quickly determined, is this something that I can do something about, or really is it something that should be left up to God? And if I can act, I will. And if I can't, I pray. And so hopefully that nugget will help you. And there's one other, especially when you're dealing with trials and tribulations and negativity in your life. And there are going to be some good days and some bad days, some good times and some bad times. My grandmother on the father's side of my family, she said, son, when you're faced with adversity in life, she said, you're going to give it one or two things. She said, you can turn it over and give it the best of us, or we can give it the rest of us. Now, back in Louisiana, we had a lot of farms around us. And the best of us in terms of that crop out there on the farm was you picked all of the good stuff out of that crop. If it was broccoli or okra, whatever it was, you picked the best and you brought that in. And that's what you either cooked, you shared, or you sold. And the rest was the scraps that was left out in the field for the animals to get. And later it might be toiled up. And as you all know, Texas is a big farming state as well. And so we pick the best and we leave the rest. I think about it in terms of, when we have our funerals and we lay our loved ones to rest. But a lot of us believe that the loved one has moved on. They've gone up to glory. And the rest is that expense body, whether it lived to be 50 years, 60, 70, or 100 years, that old body is put in the ground. That body is discarded. And that then becomes the rest. But all of the good things that made us up, those are the things that went on to be shared with our Lord. And so once again, falling in two buckets. You know, we can give it our best or we'll give it our rest. And during this time, I choose, and I see so many other people choosing to give it their best. And that's what we're seeing all over Bell County. We're seeing people who are truly at their best, even in the darkest of times. You know, I got on the Temple Daily Telegram this morning, and I looked at KCN and I said, you know, during these times, we can always find a lot of negative things, but I like looking for the nuggets. And sometimes the nuggets are on the front page, but a lot of times the thing that catches our eye is the bad news, and it gets printed in really bold print. But if I turn my attention to the nuggets, you know, I saw that KCN TV, they had something talking about the coronavirus facts, not fear. And it's important that we allow ourselves to gravitate toward those things that will most enhance our lives and not be a detriment to it. And just that title alone, the facts, not fear, is telling us that there's a lot of things that are dealing with this virus, but we shouldn't allow ourselves to be overcome by things that are not true, or just to become bottlenecked or laden in our fears. The Temple Daily Telegram, one of the articles was seeking staples, hundreds lined up for food pantry distribution. And I'll read just a little excerpt here. It said the cars were coming from all directions Thursday morning, converging on the American Legion post number 133 in Temple. Lucida Romero was lucky enough to be in the line in the American Legion parking lot, 1300 South 25th Street, at the start of the organization's mobile food pantry event. Romero is a client of the church's Touching Lives for Christ, a food pantry on Avenue G where she gets groceries once a month. This is helping me out a lot. It will get me through the month, she said, of the food distribution on Thursday. She was working part-time at McDonald's, but she lost a job when the fast food restaurant cut back on the drive-through service only. I cleaned the tables and I cleaned the restroom, she said. Luckily, Romero will return to that job when the restaurant opens its dine-in service. My boss called me and asked if I was going to come back, and I told her yes, Romero said. Another one was about Bell County hospitals, and they're protecting the salaries of doctors, nurses, and a lot of medical staff, you know, in our hospitals. But there was something that I picked up on in the article, and a little bit of it says there's nothing like a pandemic and an economy on the skids to cause turmoil. In dealing with the coronavirus outbreak, hospitals and clinics across the country are now paying the price with lost revenues as a result of limiting surgeries to emergencies only. Clinics are closing and a few procedures being performed. Alitarum, a nonprofit research and consulting firm, reported in early April that 43,000 healthcare workers across the country had been laid off in the first month of the COVID-19 outbreak. But here's what's different. In Bell County, 3 of the larger hospitals are protecting staff salaries, at least until the end of May. And so all across the nation, hospitals are cutting staff, cutting wages, because they're reacting to the negative things that are happening. But in Bell County, the situation is a little bit different. We still see that some bad things are happening, but we're not taking bad reactions as a method to dealing with them. In fact, we're doing quite the opposite. We're going the extra mile. And so I want to share something with you that really will kind of summarize some things and hopefully give us some more insight as to how we're behaving in Bell County. And I give to you something I wrote, and it's called The Message of Hope. While many danced in the new year at the last night galas, in the background lurked a thief in the night. From a bat to a man born a virus in China that would bring uncertainty to our way of life. Through the city of Wuhan, it rapidly spread, South Korea, and then Italy gaining steam. A coronavirus traveling from country to country, now given the name COVID-19. By January, it penetrated Washington state as our national leaders tried to put us at ease. We were told not to worry about this rising ailment because this was a Chinese disease. In February, flights from China were canceled, while many travelers continued to roam, and all Americans who had journeyed to countries in Europe were free to depart and come home. Our Statue of Liberty would become infected, with New York seeing cases on the rise. Spoken softly in the background, a word called pandemic as the volume increases in size. By early March, we were handed a big blow in Austin. Our Texas pride was being put to the test. Without a single outbreak of coronavirus in the city, they canceled South by Southwest. The WHO said we should put some distance between us, for our social behaviors must change. But in Bell County, we are all so connected, so to be apart from each other is strange. We optimistically waited as more cases developed and continued to unfurl with such thrust. The first case in Texas was on March 4th in Fort Bend. It became clear this was coming for us. But the spirit of Central Texans, we remained as vibrant as ever, and quite honestly, we were feeling really no strain until March 19th, when an announcement was made that a sick Belton man arrived in from Spain. Did COVID know that Bell County is a medical community with hospitals and clinics abound? It now decided to bring this fight to our doorstep, but this is Texas, so we will stand our ground. Judge Blackburn gave the order to our citizen community to shelter in place free from harm and begin preparing our cities for imminent danger, for the fight would be hard and be long. This war needs no tanks from our Army brigades, no weapons from 3 Corps Command, but rather respirators, ventilators, sanitizers, and masks, and testing kits, which not enough was on hand. Oh, but between Temple and Belton, the sowers united, undaunted with an immeasurable task. Individual people and companies like Custom Crest and Belton who started making coronavirus protective masks. So unfazed were our doctors and nurses on the top of the hill who worked tirelessly through day and through night. Unsung heroes whose faces were no longer visible at Baylor, Scott, and White. Our national community, although faithful, did panic as a buying spree quickly ensued. We raided our H-E-Bs and Walmarts and Targets, and our store shelves became vacant of food. Operation Feeding Temple began stamping out hunger as the employment now rapidly fell. So we tended to those who are less fortunate to ensure our community remains well. Oh, we hosted pizza for our public works departments. TISD served children with not much to eat, sharing times to break bread, knowing we all are fed because God said to us, go feed my sheep. A Temple summer, it can't lose its sizzle, for a mere virus can't take that away, because the hearts and the souls of Bell County are strong. Like Fort Hood soldiers, we will fight every day. And for this war, we will battle like wildcats, unleashing our tigers, leopards, and swarms of our bees, backed by prayer from a church of crusaders who will see COVID drop down to its knees. In many places, yes, businesses are shutting their doors. In Bell County, though, there's a key differential. With businesses like McLean's, Wilson Art, and PSI, there's no doubting that we are essential. But for those who are in service of a personal nature, who were left with no choice but abort, like our manicurists, beauticians, our barbers, and more, are in dire need of our unyielding support. For this is not our first corporate challenge, and it surely will not be our last. Therefore, we will salute to all of our businesses who remain committed, resolved, and steadfast. Our workforce will bring solutions of Central Texas. Our leadership temple will bring a perspective that's new. Our Economic Development Corporation is a strong force of nature, and our Chamber of Commerce will help businesses through. Our Governor Abbott, he called in a strike force to get our economy back on an even plane. And when he searched for the best who would be up to this test, he called Temple to seek Drayton McLean. You see, our community is blessed with so many helping hands. It's our ministry, our calling, and our deed. When one is knocked down, another steps up and starts the process of sowing a seed. For the families who've lost a loved one to this virus, remain hopeful, for you'll see brighter days. And remember, our God, He is faithful and trust, so continue to give Him your praise. During this time, we all can use some uplifting, while on this journey, as some moments can seem low. So consider a random small act of kindness for a stranger or for someone you know. For our courage, it comes from our vulnerability, and our bravery will conquer our fears. We were around before this coronavirus began, and then when it's gone, we will still be standing here. I promise there will still be chrome in our carols. We will be united because we know the way. Bell County is an army who knows its salvation. Our visiting angels decided to stay. As we restore our areas that have suffered from harm, a sense of newness will come to this place. When we sit together at a luncheon again, the food will taste sweeter, and we will cherish your warm and friendly embrace. Our story will be printed all over the telegram. Channel 6 will say, breaking news live here at 1. There was a city and a county at war with the virus, and we're proud to report we have won. I'm so thankful for Rod and our friends at the Chamber and everyone in this Zoom meeting for all that you do. And I'm appreciative of this very moment in time that you allowed me to spend it with you. I love you. Thank you.
Wow. Elliot Germany, thank you. Thank you so much for just exactly what we'd asked for was words of inspiration this morning. And I can't say anything more, but thank you very much for those words. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have this morning. We thank you so much for joining us today. And again, a very special thank you to the Chamber team that is working extremely hard from their individual offices and their homes. And a very special nod of gratitude and thanks to you, Elliot. We appreciate you. Everybody be safe, have a great weekend, and remember, Temple Strong.
Thank you.